Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach and author of Food Truck 101 Beginner to Winner. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Today is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, and I thought I would share a little story with you guys about something that happened to me on a Thanksgiving a long time ago. As a leader of a small staff, we have to be on point with every single action we take, both with our guests and with our staff. Each action that we take does two things. First, it sets the example on how we expect the staff to treat each other and to treat our guests. And if you yell at your staff, you can be pretty well sure at some point they're going to yell at each other, and eventually they're going to yell at your guests. Whether they mean to or not, in the heat of the moment, they will. The second is each action that we take is a deposit into or out of the loyalty bank. Handling a guest complaint with care and concern, it creates a deposit into the loyalty bank. Giving them outstanding food, giving them outstanding service, creates another deposit into the loyalty bank. So when you have a high balance in that loyalty bank, that helps when things don't quite go the way you expect. A guest will be more forgiving, and they'll still come back when you make that mistake. But if your business has not been making those deposits into that loyalty bank, that guest is not going to be as willing to come back because you haven't proven to them in the past you're worth a second chance. So you always want to be putting into the loyalty bank for both your guests and your staff. The same thing happens with your staff. When you treat them with respect, you train them to be the best versions of themselves in respect to your business, and you're completely fair when it comes to discipline, and you're making deposits into their loyalty towards your business. They will take more pride in their work, and they'll go the extra mile for you when you need it. But if your staff has a low account in their loyalty, when you need them to do something extra, you're probably not going to get it out of them. So back in the day when I was the low man on the management totem pole at Rack's Restaurants, I was often assigned the tasks that nobody else wanted to do. And one of those low man tasks was checking out the restaurant on holidays when the restaurant was closed, like Thanksgiving. So those tasks were designed to be super simple. You walk in, you check security, make sure all the doors are locked, the windows locked, the back door's locked. You check the temperature in the cooler and the freezer and anything else that's turned on that's supposed to be cold or freezing. So you're checking all those temperatures. You go count the money in the bank to make sure that all the money supposed to be there is still there. And then you are done. And it's normally 15 minutes or so. Well, on this particular Thanksgiving, our restaurant had been going through a remodel. And part of the contract we had with the construction crew was they did all the work after we closed, provided they would also clean up and make sure that the restaurant was ready to open the next day. Not really a difficult task, because we knew at some point we'd have to completely shut down while they did all the hard work, but in the interim we would open every day that we possibly could until we just couldn't open any longer. So they were doing little minor things each night towards a remodel. The building that we had our restaurant set up in was a 20-year-old building that originally had no dining room, and also its bathrooms were in the back part of the building, actually outside. So over the years, they had built that in and built us a dining room, but there wasn't a lot of things you would expect there to be in a modern dining room. Like there was no electricity out there other than for the lighting. There was no water. There was no sewage. There was just a lot of things you would expect to be there in a modern dining room weren't there. We had to add plumbing and water because they were adding a new salad bar that had steam tables, and those steam tables would need to be filled with water and drained. And it wouldn't be fun to tote buckets full of water back and forth in the kitchen. So on this fateful Thanksgiving, I had planned 15 minutes of visit so I could turn around and head back home. Well, that 15 minutes turned into 13 hours. The construction crew had decided that what we need to do is go ahead and cut the concrete that leads from the kitchen to the dining room with a wet saw. And if you've ever used a wet saw and cut concrete, it throws out this really fine gray dust, and it goes everywhere. And I mean, it goes everywhere. So when I walked into the restaurant expecting to run into the office, count the money, check the doors, check the cooler, check the freezer, and run back out, wasn't able to. There was this gray dust everywhere. It was covering the plants. It was covering the tables. It was covering the chairs. It was covering the little tiny salad bar that we had. We had china cabinets set up to hold our trash cans in the lower section. So the upper section, we actually had china for display, all of it covered in dust. I go into the front line area where we took all the orders, the cash registers, the soda fountains, the top of the hood for the fryers. Everything had dust on it. So I go into the kitchen thinking, well, at least the kitchen's got to be clean. And it wasn't. The kitchen had gray dust, more so than the dining room did. So it was like they kind of swept the dining room, but they didn't do anything to the rest of the restaurant. So I grabbed a broom and started sweeping. And I realized just after a few seconds that was going to be totally useless, because all I did was stir up the dust and it would just land right back down in the path I had just swept. So I decided that was the time I needed to cash in on the loyalty that I'd built up with my staff, the ones that worked with me closely, and I started calling them. The very first person I called was the one I was 100% sure would come in. And when I called and talked to her, actually her parents answered the phone, because remember, this is in the 1980s, so we didn't have cell phones and that kind of thing. So I'm having to call their landline at the home and say, hey, can you let your daughter come to help clean the restaurant? So I talked to the parents for a few minutes, and they're telling me, yeah, we're getting ready to go. And so I didn't even bother asking them because I talked to the parents before. So I just told them, you guys have an awesome Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you guys later on. So the second person I called, and now I'm getting a little worried because the first one I counted on wasn't able to come. The second one I called, she said, absolutely, I'll be there whenever you want me. And then I called 5 more people, and all of them agreed right off the bat. No problems. Brought them in, and we cleaned, and we cleaned, and we cleaned. And then after we cleaned, we realized that we just stirred up as much dust as we had swept up, so we'd have to go clean again and again. So we actually cleaned the entire dining room 3 times. We swept the entire restaurant 3 times, and then mopped it 3 times. And even when we got all the way done, it still had a little bit of the gray dust everywhere, but at least it was manageable, and I knew the opening staff could pick up that last little bit and be able to open on time. So I wasn't too concerned, but I was certainly glad that I had all those people come to help me. So as we're doing our cleaning and we're talking, I had everybody clean one section of the restaurant at a time rather than have them all spread out and throwing dust on each other. So we cleaned the dining room. We're all out talking in the dining room. As, we're cleaning the china and all the other things out in the dining room. And I asked them, what can I get for you guys? Because there's not a lot of choices for food, and none of us really wanted to turn on anything in the restaurant and cook. The only thing we had available was donuts. So I gave one of the guys some money, sent him down to the donut shop just a few blocks down the road. He grabbed some donuts and brought them back. So we all took a break, sat down, and we're talking about what we were all doing on Thanksgiving. And every one of them said they were glad that I made the phone call so they could come to the restaurant, because they felt a lot of loyalty to the restaurant and they felt a lot of loyalty to me. And they didn't mind giving up a little bit of their afternoon and their evening on Thanksgiving because they knew I would appreciate the work and I would make it worth their while. I wasn't going to take advantage of them. And they all expressed that appreciation for how I treated them when we worked. And we joked and we giggled and we carried on. But it was just a bunch of people that had a common task: get that restaurant clean so that the next shift could open up on time. We weren't even cleaning it for ourselves. We didn't even make the mess. But we knew how important it was for the opening shift to be able to get their job done on time so the restaurant could open on time, so the guests that would be coming in could be served on time. That's the end result of when you create a team of people that are focused on getting tasks done, and they understand the importance of those tasks towards the guest. Every one of those people that came in and worked for me were all under 20. They all were either high school age or college age. There was no one older than 20. And in fact, at the time, I was 21. Yeah, I was 21. So all of those people came in because how I had treated them the entire time we were working together. And that's what you got to do with your business. You got to treat your people as people. They're important to you and your business. They're going to help you to achieve your goals, but they have to buy into the end result. They're going to love seeing people eat the food as much as you do. They're going to love reading the reviews about how great the service was as much as you do. You have to celebrate those successes. You have to share in the glory when someone gives it to you. When the staff feels like their job is important to you and important to the guests, they're going to want to do it better and better and better. So you got to work on setting the example, and you got to work on treating them exactly the same way you want to be treated and the same way you want them to treat your guests. And it does take some practice, but you got to do it every single day. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, please consider hitting the support button or following the links in the description and offer any show of support that you can. Every little bit does help keep us going. If you guys love being around positive, supportive, like-minded people, check out our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. There you're going to find a whole ton of information and inspiration from our awesome membership. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you're finding all the information useful in your food truck business. You guys have a great holiday season. I'll be back Monday of next week with a new topic. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.